welcome. Welcome to Vietnam Authentically. This is a place where you, the expats and tourists, can find insights into life and business in Vietnam. And today I have the pleasure to have Lauren, who is the owner of Freedom Resort, right? Welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us. So, how long have you been in Vietnam and what is Freedom Resort?
Yes, I've been in Vietnam since February, so we're coming up on my 8-month anniversary officially for the business. Before that, I was traveling Southeast Asia and came across this place. And I would describe it as a very natural, comfortable, quiet side of the island of Phu Quoc. And the island of Phu Quoc, for those of you that don't know, is off Vietnam mainland. And to one side we have Cambodia, and to one side we have mainland Vietnam. So I'm the small little island here. And it's a 7 beach bungalow resort with bar and paddleboarding and kayaking.
Wow, that sounds so exotic and amazing. Phu Quoc is a very popular tourist destination for Vietnam. A lot of people go there because of its natural beauty, obviously. Um, is this something that you have always wanted to do, or is this something that just an opportunity that just presented itself? And how crazy is like, where did you come from?
I came from Colorado, so I was born on the East Coast of the United States, but spent 20 years in Colorado, and yeah, it's crazy. Life opens these small little windows of opportunity, and sometimes you just say yes to them. Other times you shut the window. And in this case, I was in a position to change career paths. I had been Airbnb-ing my house to do traveling anyway, so I knew that Airbnb was a great way to not entirely leave your roots behind, but generate income and also have that stability back home if you need it. And so when I saw this place on the island, it made sense. It's just something about it. It's just a beautiful life. And I made an offer and they accepted it. And I really wasn't certain they were going to accept the offer. They did. So here I am.
Wow. So
Yeah.
how long have you been in Vietnam by that point?
At that point, I had been just traveling Southeast Asia, and I'd only been on the island of Phu Quoc for about a week. But for the first time in my travels, it kind of checked all the boxes. You know how you just like know? I've been searching in Cuba. That's another story, and in Zanzibar, Africa, and just certain boxes weren't being checked. So I got here, and I was just like, "Wow, this is a really good existence." Most importantly, as a woman, you have to feel a certain security when you're single and on your own. And I feel very safe here. I feel like there's respect between cultures, which is very, very important. And just water, beach, and fresh fruit and seafood. It was a no-brainer for
Oh
me.
my God, that was such a tough decision to make. Ocean, good weather, good food, fresh fruits, and fresh seafood. Oh, it's such a tough decision. Oh my God.
And no more snow, Petra. That was like, okay, no more snow boots. I can do this.
Oh my God. But still,
Yeah.
and that's interesting. Like, you've been in Vietnam for a week. Is this your first time in Vietnam?
It was my first time in Vietnam. Yes.
In
Yes.
a week, and you go, you know what? I'm just going to migrate my life here and start, and not just like, oh, I'm going to rent a place and try out for a month or 2 months or 6 months. It's like, oh, I'm going to start a business here and a life here. That's pretty brave. I mean, very brave. I'm seeing everyday people asking questions. I'm thinking of traveling solo to Vietnam. Should I? And here you are, like not just traveling solo. You're like, I'm going to just live here and start a business here. That's pretty crazy.
Sure.
Do you
Sure.
speak
I mean,
Vietnamese?
I have started lessons. I speak Spanish and German, but Vietnamese is very, very difficult. So at first I was really hard on myself because I'm not picking it up as quickly as everyone else seems to, but it's a difficult language. One of my moves was I have a fantastic manager, Mimi, and she is bilingual and she really, really assists me with negotiations and just all around, life experience. She was born and raised on this island. But my Vietnamese, maybe you can ask me in a year.
No, that's
Maybe 2 years.
incredible because
Yeah.
you are definitely tough on yourself because you got here in February and
Yeah.
you're like, no, Vietnamese is a very difficult language to learn. And actually,
There.
there are people that I know who are expats that have been here for years who still doesn't speak any. So for you to go, no, you're definitely tough on yourself. So that's
Yeah.
interesting. So it's a small resort on an island. So like what I mean, like, how is the business and how do you generate business? How do you find customers?
So I'm coming after the pandemic, and like many places in the world, including back home, we were hit hard. But for me, it's a good starting point because I am like other businesses I've had in the past. It's good to start at the bottom and not come in when it's too good. So for me, this is a real growth opportunity. I'm generating business through Airbnb. I'm a super host for my property in the US, so it gives me a little bit more status. Booking.com, and believe it or not, already, Patreon word of mouth. We've had 2 return couples already that just enjoyed it that much. So my hope is it just builds on each other, and we just develop a really nice platform. It's been a lot of fun and a lot of surprises. It keeps me on my toes.
That's
So
nice. So you are
yeah.
using the existing platform out there. So what about, like, for example, social media? Do you use Facebook and other things to promote? And do you find
Yes.
it effective?
Um, Word of mouth seems to be the biggest part, and also networking within the community, especially with the Vietnamese people, because when we are in low times, they are really the humans that fill the gaps. So to answer your question, I do have Instagram and I do have Facebook, and we try to post, but really those posts right now are more to show people what we're offering than for me to do advertisements. The the local community I've gotten through with on the expat Facebook groups, and through just kind of development. I have a couple of schools that came here and did their field trips. So they did like watercolor and sailing. We've offered a lot of free things to those children, sailing lessons. We did an entire study group on the importance of trash and recycling and how we can do better as a community. So those are kind of my beginning footprint here. And I think as we expand, certainly Google ads and maybe some Instagram ads, but I'm still very fresh with this, and how you generate interest with people from all over the world. Vietnam is one thing, but getting Europeans to know this resort and getting Americans to know this resort and Canadians and all of that, it's a huge geographical reach.
Right, right.
So yeah,
And I
yes.
love what you just mentioned about, and this is something that I appreciate so much what you said about, teaching people about recycling, and this is what I love so much, is that you have this conscientious, you're very, and that, I don't mean, that's why the name of this podcast, Vietnam Authentically, because I love people that, not just there. I mean, clearly we are a poorer country, so it kind of give a tendency for exploitation, because you got a lower living standards, people can afford more, so people coming from other places, and sometimes unfortunately you do get certain people that come with that sort of exploitation attitude. But I love it when when I meet someone like you with that really conscientious, really, it's so wonderful to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
and
It's very important to me. It's very, very important. I just want to add that me coming here, although I've been embraced as a friend, I came here as a stranger. So for me, it's an equal opportunity, if not for me to succeed, to help people and to make this a place where Vietnamese can come as well as foreigners. There is not going to be an exclusion with me. I want it to be affordable for Vietnamese as well. That was a big conversation. How do we make our menu affordable? How do we make our sailing affordable? And so far, I have to say it's really worked. So I'm hoping, it keeps benefiting all of us, so I
that
can
is
stay.
that is so wonderful. So, I mean, how did you let's talk about the business side of it, right? How There's a lot of logistics side of it, right? Like what kind of permit or license do you need to get, and did you have, your visa status and all that kind of thing? How did you navigate that, and what kind of things did you need?
Sure. For anyone going through this, just my advice is you've got to hold on for the ride. It's not, it's not cut and dry. It's not crystal clear. And my advice would be to find one person, one Vietnamese person that you can really trust. And I was truly blessed with that. My business partner, because you come in, as a foreigner, you own less. My business partner is just a brilliant elderly Vietnamese man who enjoys sailing. So we were really given the opportunity to piggyback off each other, because he can run his water sports division out of my resort, and I can run what I'm good at, which is dealing with the people and dealing with the rooms here for rent. So it's been a really great experience. But even with his help and advice, it it takes a long time. I mean, it took all the way into 7.5 months for me to finally feel confident that I was here legally doing it the right way. So yeah, just stay strong and fight if you want it. It's possible. I do believe that. I think that it's just a little scary. It's new.
Right,
So
right. And
yeah.
exactly like you said, which is not cut and dry, is not like, for example, in America, you can look up the law and it's written like this, meaning it's exactly like this. It's interesting. We had another episode where we interview another expert, and he said that piece of paper, whatever the piece of paper that you sign, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't hold anything. It's about relationship with people, and yeah, it's so interesting. Um,
Yeah, it's all about the relationships. Yeah. And
yeah,
how you present yourself. I can tell you that if you come in too tough and you don't have a level of almost like honey to you, it's misconstrued and misdirected. It's not like the American business world where I came in, especially as a woman, and I had to be even tougher than my peers to appear professional and intelligent. Here, I think it's more of a softer demeanor, and you have to trust whom you're working with to really navigate the conversation if you're not fluent in Vietnamese. So,
right. And so
yeah.
what about your in terms of your human resources, like the structure? you clearly need some housekeeping staff. You mentioned about the kitchen. You mentioned about, the man that runs the paddle board, the water sport. So, like how big is like, and then how did you find people and all that?
So my mentality is always in my hiring process in the United States and here in Vietnam, excuse me, is however many people you employ, they then become extended family. So I am very careful with employment, mostly because I feel responsible for them forever. Once we've earned each other's trust and we work together, you are an extended family of Freedom Beach and Lauren. So for me, I've started very modestly. I came in, I hired an assistant, who I mentioned before, Mimi. She handles all the daily negotiation and when I have Vietnamese guests because my language is not as good yet. And then I have one house cleaner and I have another young girl who does the cooking for me. And I've kept it just with the three. We may bring on a gardener because my back is beginning to hurt. But right now, I think we'll just keep it the three and me. So I have four individuals, including myself, doing the daily grind. And I do
Wow.
whatever I need to do. I've always had that mentality. If something's needed, I jump right in. I'm not a very good cook, so I stay out of the kitchen. But besides that, I'll help how I can. So,
You're incredibly brave and and talented. That's amazing. So um how do you figure out I mean, how do you figure out the pricing, for example? How do you price your room, for example, or how do you figure out how much to pay because the obviously it's all different. Like you're from
yeah.
Colorado, so the pricing levels are different. How do you judge and how do you know that you get the right number?
I was blessed in the beginning by a friend who is doing something similar and I could bounce ideas off of. Now, that's not to say that I copied those ideas exactly, because, in my opinion, in some ways, they were underpaying, and I have no desire to have the cheapest version of anything. So I really run a lot of this on just gut instinct and a lot of conversation. And now that I have Mimi, I talk to her and I want to know what she truly thinks. And in the beginning, I found that very difficult because trust is earned both ways. And I don't think she wanted to offend me. And she also came from a background where her opinions weren't necessarily listened to. But with time, she started disclosing, and you can find the right range. And in my opinion, if the resort is making and earning income, so should my staff. So I came in and I was willing to pay more, and so far it's worked out in my favor because they're just fantastic. If you met these girls, you would just be like, oh my gosh, Lauren, you're so lucky. And I'd be like, I know, I'm blessed. I don't know. But it's also a mutual respect and it's earned.
That is such a
I don't know if
wonderful
that helps you.
attitude. No, no, it's
Yeah.
great. It's great. I
Yeah.
can see that you have such a great attitude in how you approach anything, really, it seems, and that really helped. Yeah. And so what about culture shocks, right? Obviously, there are doing business in Vietnam is different. I mean, like, for example, even today, right? We were supposed to do this interview way earlier, but there was a power outage, and the rain is all this thing.
I was going to say, I don't know. This, when I first got here, what I would have been like totally flustered and gone in the house and probably sat down and just been like, what the heck? But you got to roll with these things because it'll make you crazy and you can't change any of it. It's Vietnam. You've heard it. I think everyone listening to this has heard it. It's Vietnam. You just have to roll with the punches. Yeah. Some of the hardest things for me, and this is just, coming to a country that's trying to develop rapidly, but is still missing small components, which I think in time is going to go away. Some of the things that have been really hard for me are people's feelings towards animals, people's feelings towards children. Those are two things that are like big, heart stoppers for me. When I first got here, I had more of a negative attitude. You see so much of it dulls it a little bit. But now we do our part here to try to help. And I try to help with the Taki School. I try to help. Right now we're fostering 5 kittens. We do our part to help, and that's all I can do. And just hope with education that things keep improving, because it's an awesome place to be. It really is. Yeah. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting. I mean, like even the conversation that we had earlier, like just before this, was like, oh, the power is out once a week. But you know, that's just how it is. Right? So what else did you get used to that just a year ago you would have taken it
Great.
like
Here's a good one. How long it takes to get certain small tasks done, but they know when the deadline is to complete it. Case in point, we had a roof leak, and we knew that rainy season was approaching. And then rainy season approached, they still hadn't come, and it was raining into the room. And then one day, it just came in, like stormed on in, and in like 10 hours, it was all done. I couldn't believe it. I had just given up. I was like, okay, this is not happening. Put the bucket under the roof leak. We're just going to deal with this forever. It's amazing. But it takes forever, which is the same in the United States. That can happen. But then normally when it takes forever, it never gets completed, or they take your money and never do it. But here they do show up. It's just, you can't get angry about it. You just wait.
just be patient. So yeah, so what I'm hearing is, yeah, it takes patience to be
Yes.
here. Things are different, very different than in America, in other places. But you just have to be patient. Wow, that's so interesting. So we talk about the sort of the logistics side of the business. We talk about, um, we talk about the business, the money side of the business. We talk about, the culture shock. What about life? You know, infrastructure here is different. Like, you mentioned they're missing things. So how does it work for you? How is your life now different than before? And
Well, I no longer have a car. That's an interesting one. I now ride a Honda Airblade, which I never knew how to drive until I got to this island. So that was like a big, like, whoa. I was convinced when I got here I could walk. You learn pretty quickly that walking is not that much fun, especially on that road. So I did teach myself to ride a Honda Airblade confidently, and this island is a good place for the first timers because it's a lot quieter than some of your other cities in Vietnam. You don't always find the things you want, but there are a couple great websites that you can order things on. That was good for me, but I did not know that right off the bat. I assumed you could go into any store and just get it, and that's not always the case. Yeah, and then just, I think socially being on an island is very different. I was in a community in the United States, in Colorado, where friends just came and knocked on the door. You could have a bottle of wine and, or an hors d'oeuvre or something, and it didn't have to be so planned. And living on this island, I thought it would be easier for friends to just get together. But I think now you really have to make time and water those friendships, because we all get so caught up in what we're individually doing and trying to achieve. And the friendship is very important. you have to have friends. You can't isolate, especially as a foreigner. So,
What
yeah,
is your circle of friends? Is that mostly expat or is that a mix of expat and Vietnamese?
I have a few wonderful Vietnamese friends. It's taken a lot of time to really get to know them, and I think it'll take more time to be fully accepted. The easiest parts for me were just young women my age, doing, not necessarily all working, but on the island. And I really try to take time to visit with them and develop that. It takes a lot of time to do all this. I came here and I thought the friendship would be very, very easy. And I think that's the first thing that you realize right away. You have to take a lot of work to put into it. So
So what about the expat community? Is there an expat community on the island?
there is an expat community on the island. It's, I think, by most comparisons, pretty small. And most are living down in the south part of the island. It's more of a city vibe. And as I mentioned before, I'm a bit more isolated on the east end. But yes, there is. We have a few groups, but it doesn't really seem. I see a lot in Ho Chi Minh City that they network a lot and they'll have events and business events. And I'm not seeing that happening here. I could be mistaken, but it's not posted regularly in the forums. So I'm assuming no. But there are things that I could do better. They do have yoga classes and there's gyms and there's classes in clubs that I could join. I just have to choose something and dedicate. And I have been occupied. Occupied. And when I'm not occupied, I'm tired. So
Yeah, you try to adjust
yeah,
to, you have a
I
lot
gotta
on.
adjust it.
Yeah, you have so much on. So you've been here
Yeah.
for through this time of 7 months, or and you're like, what are the changes that you see in Vietnam and and even in your particular industry, which is the tourism business?
I well, I have not had a full year yet to cross compare. I did see an upward tick about a week ago where tourists were coming back to the resort, and I felt like, oh, we might be, approaching busy season because people mentioned mid-October is when the real push starts. But then the rain hit again. And so what I'm assuming in my geographic location is that tourism is predominantly right now on the mainland or in the other surrounding countries, and they're watching the weather app. And they know when we're getting this, and they don't want to be here now. So I'm really thinking that right now it is all weather related. And when that breaks, we're going to have a fantastic season. I am at full capacity for December and January. To put it in perspective, we are almost completely booked out. I have a couple spaces I can put people if they would like to still come, but those dates are full. And I'm projecting that November, December, January, February, March will be great. Now, will it be what it was before pandemic? No, but I don't have those comparisons, which is maybe nice because I can come in a bit more positive mindset than, oh, this is what I had before, and unfortunately, this is all I have now. So
No,
I'm
but
just going to go with, yeah,
right,
I'm
but
just
like
going
you
to go with,
said, you didn't want to start somewhere. You wanted to start
no,
somewhere here that you can build up, and I think that's great. That's a
yeah,
good place.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wonder, like, for you, because you mentioned, you're a single woman, like what is the dating life like? It's gonna be like on an island, like that's gonna be challenging, no? Do you find that, or is that the same
Teacher,
in the
there are
West?
no eligible bachelors that I've run into yet. Not that I've taken a ton of time. A friend of mine, she's funny. She's always like my cheerleader. She said, well, Lauren just joined Bumble or Tinder. And I said to her, on an island, are you crazy? Like, are you crazy? No, I probably know them. They're probably my neighbors. It's not happening. This place is too small. I'm at a point where I can sincerely say I'm ready. And if the right candidate comes along, great. If not, I have a lot of work to do here. So I'm very distracted. But yeah, it would be ideal. I'd love to find someone who wanted to sweep a beach occasionally and weed a garden.
Exactly. Here's a bucket. Here's a bucket. Come along. So for anyone that are listening, reach out to me and I will introduce you. No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for this. I think that's such a great story. And actually, you mentioned something about a retreat. What was that about?
Yes. So this is a relatively new idea. Since goes back a long time ago. Since I was about 16 years old, I have wanted to help women and in that situation, young girls with mental health. And not necessarily, when a lot of people talk about mental health, they think about prescriptions and doctors. But for me, I think and feel strongly that when you are immersed in nature and you are doing activities you love, it really can help balance what's going on inside. And so this new project is really a passion project for me. And we have a small jungle retreat center about 2 kilometers away that we just opened. And our first retreat is being held in November. It is a Vietnamese man who lives in Hanoi, and his center is called T3 Healing. So he will be bringing, in this case, women and men to the retreat center to help them just recover from whatever they're dealing with internally. So I'm a huge fan and will facilitate, and I would love to facilitate more. So, anyone listening who is interested in something like that, please reach out to Petra, because I would love, love, love to give back and show you this place. And when I say this place is breathtaking, it's an understatement. It is so beautiful. It sits right in the foothills of the Phu Quoc jungle. The mountains are right behind us, and it's all natural garden. It's just,
Wow.
yeah, it's stunning.
So what is the structure of the retreat? Like, is that like how many days and how does it work?
Yeah, his retreat, this particular retreat, is 4 days, and he is at this one is for Vietnamese, mostly, unless you are fluent in Vietnamese, because he'll be teaching everything in that language. I had some interest, but unfortunately there's no English yet that we can put within this one. This is also the first one we're ever doing, so I think things will improve and change. And it's going to be, it's 3 nights, 4 days, and he is doing a lot of meditation practice, yoga. There will be some discussion about clean eating, different ways you can improve your diet, and
Wow,
it'll just kind of
that's amazing. So when is this in November?
It's in November. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know the dates offhand. I want to say it's the second week in November.
Wow, that's
And I can
wonderful.
get you, I can get you the exact dates. Yeah, he's fantastic. He's a great person. Him and his wife have been doing this for, I want to say, he told me 10 years, 11 years.
Wow.
And the way I met him is he came to the resort, and we just got to chatting. And then from there, I realized who he was and what he was doing. And we connected now later.
Wow, that's wonderful. I think I can hear the rain on your tin roof. Is that right?
Oh my heavens.
Living in
It
a
makes good
tropical.
sleeping. It does not make good conversation and interviews.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the tropical paradise. That's part of it though. Yeah. So
Yeah,
now that you're looking back at what you have gone through, what would you have done differently?
done it sooner. Probably done it all sooner in life. Um, I I have a lot of that. I'm in my late 30s now. I had a lot of energy in my 20s. I still have a lot of energy in my late 30s, but I could have done more, I think. Um, Also, just mentally, I I think I feel that in my 20s I was more scared. In my 30s, I kind of transformed and realized that there's things that are far more scary than moving away. Um, what else would I have done differently? Convinced my mother to come. I'm still trying to get her to come on over. It would have been easier if she'd come with me on the airplane the first time, and now I'm here and she has to do it alone.
Right.
But it's all just a road, and you're just trying to navigate. And like anything, you see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I don't know if you ever reach it. You have to ask me in a few years.
So this is like what do you foresee? Is this like a few years project or is this where you think, oh, this is where I can settle? Like what is this?
So business wise, they're 5-year leases. Um, and they both have options to renew. And I have extremely good feelings with both of the landlords that own the property. I think that for me, it's too hard to say where you are after 5 years. But big picture, that we just continue to grow. And I would really like, don't want her to listen to this, but I would, because it's too soon to have these conversations, but I would really like someone in a position like Mimi to have an interest to be the person running Freedom Beach, and it opened up opportunities for me to do new things and be creative. That's not to say I wouldn't be involved, but I do feel that Vietnamese should be involved in Vietnamese businesses, and they should be running them, and that would open things for me to do other things, maybe open another resort, maybe open another retreat center. Who knows? In 5 years, you got to ask me. Maybe I'll be on a sailboat somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. You never know.
That is so wonderful. With Mr. Carry the bucket.
Yeah, yeah. That's what'll happen.
Yeah. So thank you
Oh,
so much for being, I love how open you are and I love your attitude to life and to everything. So any last words before we end the conversation?
no, for all the listeners, I just say pursue what makes you happy, and don't do it tomorrow. Do it, maybe don't do it in a week like me, but pursue it because it works out. Yeah.
Thank you
And
so
thank you,
much.
Petra, very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. This episode was sponsored by Viet Healthy, Smile Hotel in Nha Trang, and Cafe Culture. We're very grateful to our sponsors for this. And thank you so much, Lauren, for being here today. And if anyone who knows other expats who are running businesses in Vietnam, I'm really interested to hear their stories. So please make introduction. Thank you so much, everyone, and stay wonderful.